Hey guys, this is the Sears Early One model 246.57045 smoke detector. Now, this one is another one that I got recently at an estate sale. And the story of how I got this one is kind of an interesting story. This one was actually installed, and I just happened to go to this estate sale that was it was actually closer to my grandma's house, actually. Um, and they had a lot of cool stuff for sale, but nothing that I really wanted. And the first thing that caught my eye when I went in was they had two of these installed. There was one in the hallway, like it was a rancher house, so it only had one level, but there was one in the hallway, and right next to that there was the basement stairwell, which was like a door that led downstairs to the basement, and there was one installed on the ceiling of the basement stairwell, literally right next to the one in the hallway. So, I told the people there a little bit about my collection, and they said that I could buy them from them. However, I only had $5 on me at the time, so I was like, I'll just buy one of them because I'll leave. I was like, they're both the same, so it wasn't really a big deal to me that I only got one of them. But yeah, it's still nice to have. Now, if you haven't figured it out from the model number, this one is actually a rebranded BRK model 77R or First Alert SA76RS. Um, I actually forgot to grab my 77 or my SA76RS from downstairs. Um, but basically it's the exact same thing. It has the exact same circuitry and base, just a different cover. So here is one of my SA76RS units. And right next to the Sears, you can see they're very different. The Sears is a lot larger. Um, it's a much different design. However, if I go ahead and open up both of these units, you'll notice that inside they're exactly the same, literally. Um, Same exact circuitry and everything. Now there's a couple of key differences on the circuit board of the Sears, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I'll look at the basics here. You got your Kobishi CLB-27 brass squealer, again, just like all of the 77Rs and SA76RSs have. And you have a coffin-shaped ionization sensor, which again is just like all these had. Um, and of course the AC version had that sensor that was kind of cut off there. Um, but it was the same exact basic design with those slotted vents on the side. The test button is right next to the sensor, and it is connected to the PCB. This one has a tiered test button. Usually I think they always had tiered test buttons. I don't think the dome test buttons came out until the SA76RC era, so until they switched over to the 79R design with the electronic piezo horn. So, there's the main difference between this one and the First Alert one here, or technically this one is labeled Smoke Alert, but it's the exact same brand basically, made by BRK. But the one difference is right there, between the horn and the sensor. It's a little black socket there. Now that's the test socket, and if you look on the circuit board of the SA76RS, it doesn't have that socket. It has little traces for where one could go, and it's labeled, but it doesn't have the actual socket on board. Now this is what I see most of the time, is these with those traces on there but no socket on board. Very rarely do you actually see the socket on board, and if you remember, I used to have a model of this, the 246.57046, which actually had a heat sensor added. It was the exact same inside and everything, although it had a heat sensor that was added, and it was mounted right here, I think. And it actually had the wires from the heat sensor connected and plugged into two terminals in the test socket. So the test socket is for accessories. I guess it could be used for, like I said, heat sensor. It could be used for like a relay, I think. In the SS718 and SS74 models, they used it for transmitters, like radio transmitters for system devices. So I just thought that was pretty cool. But But yeah, I just thought that was a little interesting feature that this one has that one doesn't. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna put the cover back on that one. Actually show you the inside of the cover here, really quickly. And that's all it is. And this cover will fit on this one's base. So they are interchangeable, as you can see, because they're the exact same base. And the first alerts cover will fit on this one, as you can see. So now I'm going to put the cover back on the Sears, hopefully without setting it off. And I forgot to show you the back of it, but here's the back, and there's the label, model 246.57046. The 9 there is the catalog number indicator, so it's, sorry about the shakiness there, but it's catalog 95704, sorry, 975045, I said 46 before. It's 246.57045. I was thinking of the one with the heat sensor that I used to have. But yeah, this one's got 5 microcuries of americium. Yeah, that's basically it. So now I'm going to go ahead and give it a test. So push the button. So this one's pretty loud. I don't think it's quite as loud as a few of my SA76RS units. I think this one's a little bit louder, but it's got a nice tone to it. I do like the sound. You have to press a little hard to get it to go off for some reason. I'll take the cover off and test it without the cover. Actually, do the other hand so you can see. Alright. So, a couple of more information, a few more things that I wanted to mention here. The very first model that Sears ever made, of course, was this one that I have, the 957071, this was the debut model, and they made both the battery-powered and hardwired versions of this. This is, of course, the rebranded BRK SS74R. If I get the cover off, you could see the inside. It's a little hard to get off. I don't want to break it. It's hard to get off with one hand. It's not normally hard to get off. There we go. There's the inside, you can see. Very different from the very next model, because this one came right after that one. So, these came out in, I think, around 1974 or 1975. And these came out in the early 70s. So, this one particular one is a later one. So this may have been made around the same time that this one was made, actually. I'm not sure. There's a few differences on there, you can see, but it's got the exact same sensitivity adjustment. Circuit board is the same basic color. The test socket there, once again. Yeah. The only difference is this one's got, this one doesn't have any. This one's got older, like, transistors and things on it, and the capacitor looks quite a bit older as well. So, yeah, I don't think the cover's on. That's the right way. There. Okay, so right after this one, actually, around the same time as this one came out, they made this version, which was based on a different platform. It was based off of the Firenetics F900D, and this one's got the added heat sensor, like the one that I used to have based off of this platform that had a heat sensor. I'd like to find another one of those that had a heat sensor so I could have another one, just like this one. But it's got the exact same thing as the Lifesaver Firenetics F900D, and these were actually made a little bit later. This one's from 1977, so, yeah. And then, not soon after that, they came out with these versions, which were the versions that were modeled after the BRK 79R, which had the electronic horn, as you can see. This one has the escape light on it, but they had versions that didn't have the escape light, which are much rarer, actually, for some reason, than the ones that do have the light. If I could get this cover back on. But these came out in the early 80s, And around this same time that they made these again, they made ones based on another platform, which were the Gateway Scientific versions that look like this. So these all retained the same, they were all based on different platforms except for these two, which were from the same company, but all of these were based off of different models, but they retained the exact same design with the 16 sections and 4 rows of vents on each of the covers. The side vents sort of vary in size. You can see the Gateway ones have the biggest side vents. The 79R ones have sort of medium side vents. The BRK 77R ones have pretty small ones. And then the SS74R ones have even smaller ones than the BRK one, or than the 77R. And then the Firenetics ones don't even have any side vents at all. So, and then right after these, after they made the Gateway ones and the BRK ones, they made these, which were rebranded Nowcore models, which I've shown this one many times on various videos. These came out in the mid to late 80s. This one's from 84, I think, if I remember correctly. I can't really see it. But, yeah, so that's, and then after this, they stopped rebranding smoke detectors altogether, I think. So that is a basic overview of Sears and their smoke detectors. I basically have an example of every single rebrand, every single model that they ever made. I just need their few versions that I'm after, like the, version of this with the heat sensor that I used to have, the version of that with the heat sensor, AC version of this, the regular version without the escape light of this, and a couple of others, version without the heat sensor of that as well. Although those are much more common, I'll probably find one of those pretty easy. So that is about it for this video. That's the Sears model 246.57045. I almost said 46 again. The early one, smoke detector, of course, as well as additions from the other Sears Early One models and the SA76RS. So thank you for watching, and more to come.